The night The Life of a Showgirl dropped was pure chaos. Opinions flying everywhere, positive, negative, and I really want to talk about that in this video. The truth is, every time Taylor decides to change her sound or her career direction, it's met with rejection. I guess that's kind of normal when you started following her for a specific genre. But lately, with The Life of a Showgirl, the hate we've seen since October 3rd hasn't been normal at all. First of all, I want you to know that critics, like this one who works for Pitchfork, decided to listen to the leaks. Here he's talking about actually romantic way before the release date. That's not professional, nor is it objective. They gave it a low score just because they were mad about actually romantic, fueled by viral TikToks hating on the album and purposely misinterpreting songs. Like this, how can a music critic not understand that this line is figurative language? I never expect anything from Pitchfork, but I need you to understand why this is actually serious. Taylor right now, after the Eras Tour, is more famous than ever. Obviously, she'll have more eyes on her work than just critics and new fans, but the way people are twisting her lyrics and how much they're hating on her right now, it's not normal. Apparently, someone tried to warn us about this hate train, and you can tell by the number of newly created accounts going viral. They're deliberately misreading her songs, bringing up old albums and exes, and deciding that Taylor being happy is somehow not relatable. Travis and the Muses. Something that really annoyed me was how, whenever people don't like an album, they credit the ex. That's exactly what happened. I saw tons of viral tweets saying her ex wrote Folklore, or that Travis only inspires songs like Wood, a fun, flirty, cheeky song, and they treat it like it's the worst thing ever, ignoring songs like The Fate of Ophelia, Opalite, or Wishlist, of course, when honestly, it's never been about the Muses. Or are we gonna pretend there wasn't a hate wave against me for sounding too childish, to the point Taylor had to change a lyric? Or when Invisible String says, green was the color of the grass? Or against Stay, 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 London Boy, Gorgeous, or the Lover remix? Personally, I knew this album would be happy, and I knew that every time Taylor releases a happy album, it's not well received by many people. But The Life of a Showgirl shows both the fun side and the vulnerable, honest one. We see songs like Ruin the Friendship, where she talks about a crush she regrets not taking a chance on. Father Figure, about Scott Borchetta and her masters. Taylor said it's about a power imbalance between father and son, inspired by The Godfather or Succession. So please, drop the theory that it's about another female artist. If it were, Taylor would have made it as clear as she did with Actually Romantic. We also have Elizabeth Taylor, about fame and loneliness. And in Ophelia, she admits that after both breakups, she was in a melancholic state until she found love again. This album is both joyful and deep, and the Muses have nothing to do with it. It was extremely misogynistic to bring up her exes, let alone credit them for work they didn't do. Apparently, Taylor is only allowed to write from a sad perspective, right? Well, not really, because the Tortured Poets department got tons of hate for being depressing and long. People told her to go back to pop and stop spamming with her 31 songs. Now they're mad Showgirl only has 12. Taylor literally can't win. And if you think Midnight's had the perfect balance, just remember the Karma is a cat line. And vigilante shit was called corny. Rage bait. On TikTok, there are takes saying that when Taylor says, "I'm not a bad bitch, this isn't savage," she's being racist. What the hell? What does that even have to do with anything? Taylor's been saying for years that she's not cool and she's not sexy. That's always been her image, the girl next door. She doesn't offer certain things, but she offers others. That's what the song's about. And artists like Calvin Harris are supporting these takes, which we all know why, he's still bitter. But being a musician and endorsing this kind of opinion, that's just being a hater. Another ridiculous take I mentioned was about Wishlist, because of the line, "Have a couple kids, got the whole block looking like you." Taylor is a 35-year-old woman. She wants a family, she's in love, and saying she wants her kids to look like her future husband isn't bad.
That chorus of that song is me just describing what my happy place is.
There's no hidden message there. I can't believe I even have to explain this. To make it clearer, Cardi said something similar in her new album. Nobody said anything about that. Nobody called her a trad wife for that. It's insane how people pretend that when Taylor says the whole block looking like you, she's talking about a white neighborhood, when she's just exaggerating the idea of having a bunch of kids who look like their dad.
I want to have You're white babies, and I actually want our entire neighborhood to be racially homogenous.
Of all the takes that have ever been taken, this is the worst that ever got took. What are you talking about? What part of remedial English was difficult? Did they not teach you metaphors? It's the same thing as a woman saying she wants a whole football team. Does that mean she wants to birth a 53-man roster? No. She wants a lot of kids. She wants a lot of his kids. How did that just go?
They claim they want another folklore, but they can't even understand basic exaggerations or metaphors. But this line, "Is this going to end up on Fox News?" tells me everything I need to know about these people. They want a moment in the spotlight, and rage-baiting Swifties is how they get it. Folklore stands. And even though most of the previous opinions come from critics and fans of her exes, some of it also comes from fans of other albums who can't accept that Taylor is multifaceted and sings about more than just depression. Look, let's be honest. I love Folklore. Lyrically, it's one of Taylor's best albums, but it's not the only one, okay? We also have Red, Speak Now, Evermore, and The Tortured Poets, whether people like it or not. But since 2020, every album that's come after Folklore gets hit with a new wave of hate from people who don't like Taylor Swift, but do like Folklore. So they base everything on, this isn't like Folklore. And it's not, and that's fine. Because if Taylor only ever made one type of music, we wouldn't have Folklore in the first place. If we had boxed her into her early sound, we wouldn't have gotten the leap from country to pop, or from pop to folk. And even though people now say, it's not as good as Folklore or Evermore, the truth is that when Evermore came out, they called it Folklore's leftovers. Like I said in my first impression video about the life of a showgirl, you can't measure a new Taylor era or sound based on your favorite album. It's like saying you don't like 1989 or Reputation just because your favorite is Red. That makes no sense. I feel like if people just put songs like Father Figure, Cancelled, Elizabeth Taylor, and Eldest Daughter on a gray background and read the lyrics, they'd actually give the life of a showgirl a real chance, instead of just hating on it. This isn't Taylor. Actually, it is. This image right here perfectly represents it. Look where the songs from Showgirl could fit in. This is Taylor, a more relaxed, happier Taylor. We've seen this version of her in so many albums, in so many songs I've already mentioned. This woman on TikTok explains it better than I do.
So people don't like this album because it's not lyric-y enough and doesn't fit the vibes of Tortured Poets Department. But people didn't like Tortured Poets Department at first because it was too lyric-y and didn't fit the pop vibes of Midnights. But people didn't like Midnights at first because it didn't fit the vibes of Evermore and Folklore. And people didn't like Folklore at first because it didn't fit the pop vibes of Lover and Reputation. Now I'm gonna take a pause right here. Y'all remember that the song Me is on Lover, and we still think that this is the downfall of her lyrical geniusness? Anywho, people didn't like Taylor Swift in between 1989 and Reputation. Speaking of 1989, people didn't like this album because this was her official transition from country to pop. Also, the songs Welcome to New York and Shake It Off are on here. And again, we think that this is the downfall of her lyrical geniusness. People didn't like her in country because all she did was talk about breakups. I'm gonna take a pause again and remind you that Stay, Stay, Stay was also on here, and we still think that this is the downfall of her lyrical geniusness. She talks about throwing a phone at someone's head and he comes back wearing a football helmet. Anywho, again, people didn't like her when she was in country because all she did was write about breakup songs. But people didn't really like Fearless because Love Story and You Belong With Me were top of the charts and top of the hater list. And people really didn't care for her debut album, even though she was writing about love songs. They just thought that she sounded bad. She has the most loyal fans and the most loyal haters.
I'm sure, or I want to believe, they're not actually dumb enough to believe their own words. You know what? Lately, I've decided not to engage with rage bait on Twitter if the person's verified. You know they'll say anything for views. TikTok's probably the same. Swift Talk is such a toxic place right now, it's hard to be there. If they don't like the life of a showgirl, that's fine. They can just say, it's not for me. They don't need to make all this up. There doesn't have to be a moral or overly woke reason behind their dislike of the album. They don't need to pretend they're defending some ideal when that's not the case. And they definitely don't need to convince other fans the album's bad when others genuinely like it. These people truly ruined the release night experience for so many fans. I thought it was just me, but the viral hate tweets and the Swifties fighting haters made it impossible for jokes, anecdotes, lyrics, and fun album moments to go viral that night. There was just too much spam. And there still is, especially in the album reviews. That's not normal. Don't let yourself be influenced by a TikToker. Learn to tell if you actually like an album or not, and if you don't, just move on without starting a hate campaign. This album is growing on me. After that hate wave, where critics joined in repeating tweets thinking they were the voice of the people, once the hate cooled down, people started listening to the album differently, calmer, more objectively. And a phrase I keep seeing everywhere is, "This album is growing on me." Yeah, maybe listening to it once, full of confusion, isn't enough to give a public or professional opinion. You'd think they'd know that by now. A lot of people are giving it a second chance because it's catchy, and that's reflected in the numbers, which are very different from what you see on social media. And Taylor will be fine. I'm not worried about her. I'm worried about the hate campaigns we're all forced to witness. Despite the criticism, this album will be successful. It's got hits, catchy rhythms, easy lyrics, and if Taylor treats it like she treated 1989, she'll be unstoppable again. I just wanted to remind you that none of this is real. Social media doesn't reflect what real people out there actually think. If you liked the album and don't understand the hate, please know that none of this feels normal. Swifties noticed that even newly created accounts and bots were going viral for posting negative stuff. But you know what? Despite all the chaos online, I loved this album. I loved it! I already shared my first impressions of every track, and I'll be enjoying it here on this channel, with all its stories and Easter eggs. If you want a space to talk about it without the hate, I'll be waiting for you in the comments.